So last night we had one of our first dinner parties, and I made a dish that is actually one of the first dishes I ever learned how to make. It's lasagna. Imagine that. I don't know why. I remember being a kid and watching a food show, and they made lasagna, and I ran up to my mom. I was like, "Mom, I want to make lasagna." So we went out and we grabbed all the ingredients, and she helped me make it, and that was my first dish. Yes, even as a little kid, I was a foodie. So to make this lasagna, I just started off with cutting up some garlic. And you can never have enough garlic, right? It's always a good place to start out. And then for this particular sauce, I'd like to put in a little bit of onions and some carrots as well. And if I had found celery, I would put in some celery as well. That's called a mirepoix, but I couldn't find any celery yesterday while we were going around looking for stuff in Hanoi. So I didn't have it, skipped it, no big deal. Next thing I did was take out my meat, and I didn't know whether I was gonna find the right cut of meat or something. Usually I like to use like a pork butt or shoulder. It's a nice piece of meat to like braise down. It gets really nice and like pulled pork style. At this point you wanna make sure you pepper and salt your meat. I use a little sea salt. And if you're gonna be salting, you might as well Salt Bae. And then you wanna get your stovetop that you have no idea how to use to a number that you're happy with. Get that nice and hot, put in a little bit of oil, and drop that piece of meat in. Oh yeah. You want to not touch it once you drop it in. You want to let it get nice and charred and caramelized. This is where it's going to build up a lot of flavor that you won't get throughout the braising process. So it's your only chance to build up this dark, rich flavor. Once it's nice and seared on one side, flip it over and let it do its thing on the other side. Once both sides have been seared off golden, take the meat out and put it on a plate, let it chill out for a second, then dump all your vegetables in. Let that saute up nice and soft and caramelized. This is also when you want to add any of your like salt and pepper and dried spices. With dried spices, I like to take it out and crush it between my fingers a little bit, just to kind of like release the essential oils, and then put them in and they'll get nice and toasted as well. Once your vegetables have been sauteed nice and soft, take a little bit of vino and deglaze the pan. A lot of vino actually, a lot of vino will help. Make sure you grab a wooden spoon and scrape off all the little bits that have accumulated on the bottom of your pan. That's where a lot of the flavors are. Flavor crystals, I like to call them flavor crystals. Once your wine has been reduced a bit, you want to add in your tomato sauce right now. You could definitely go with like the fresh tomatoes or the canned tomatoes and a little tomato paste. Either way works. And then a little trick I like to do to get all my sauce out is add a little bit of wine into the jar, shake it up, and there you go. The rest of that goodness in there. Once that's all in, give it a little stir and add your meat back into the pot. Let it come up to a boil and then turn it down to the lowest little simmer. Put the lid on it and let it go for about 2 hours. After those 2 hours are up, your meat should be so tender it should pull apart with a fork. And it should just shred apart easily. Look at that. Oh, you know it's gonna be good. While this is happening, I turn up my sauce a little bit higher than it was before, so it can reduce down and get thickened up even more. Once the pork has been nicely shredded, I turn my pot back down to the lowest and I put the meat back in, put the lid on, that's ready to go, it's waiting. This is when Caitlin stepped in and we made fresh pasta for the first time. I don't know why we'd never made it before. It was easier than the pizza dough we make. It was literally 3 ingredients. So she added in the flour to a mixing bowl, made a little well out of it, added the eggs right in there, a little bit of the olive oil, and then just like the pizza dough, she started just incorporating it a little bit and a little bit. Here's the thing with the recipe. It was a little too wet, so all we did was we just kept adding in a little bit more flour, and a little bit more flour, and a little bit more flour. We had never made it before. Until it was the right consistency, and it's just like this nice, soft, pliable dough that's not too wet, not too dry. Once you have your dough formed to a nice consistency, you want to stretch it out and then fold it back in. Stretch it out and then fold it back in. This develops the gluten in it, and it makes for a really nice texture in your pasta. After that, you want to put it in a little kitchen wrap and let it rest for about 30 minutes. You want to get your surface area nice and floured up. You don't want anything sticking there, so just get it. Be generous with it. Get your dough out, knead it a little bit, plop it down, and then we like to cut it into more manageable pieces so you can work with it. Roll it out in your hands a little bit, and if you have a pasta roll, that works great. And if you have a rolling pin, that also works great. And if not, we use the wine bottle. Flour it up and start rolling from the middle out. Don't worry about messing it up or anything, just go slowly and yeah, get it nice and even if you can. We then cut it into little manageable lasagna length strips, just so it will boil nicer instead of one big sheet. And we stack it on top of each other, flour it generously so they don't stick together, and then we're gonna do the same thing with all the other pieces of dough. Repeat the rolling process, and then repeat the cutting process till you've done all your dough. Once that happens, drop it in some boiling salted water. And with fresh pasta, it doesn't take long at all. You drop it in, once the water comes back to a boil, take it out. It's done. Toss in a little olive oil and wait for the assembly. Now with the assembly, you want to drop down a little bit of your sauce at the bottom. I might add in a little olive oil there as well, spread it all out so you don't have your lasagna sticking to the pan once it's baked. Put down a layer of lasagna noodles, and then I like to start off with a base of mozzarella and some cottage cheese. If I could have found ricotta, I would have put ricotta, or maybe a mixture of both, but use whatever you got, or whatever you like. Add another layer of lasagna noodles, and then go heavy on your meat sauce that you braised down with that pull-apart pork. Add a little bit of mozzarella cheese on top, so it acts like the glue for the next layer of lasagna sheets. Drop that down. And then for my top layer, I like to put a little bit of sauce so it doesn't dry out so much. And then I go heavy on the mozzarella so it melts down and has that top cheesy crust. And that's what it looks like before it goes in the oven. I pop it in on high, let it bake till it gets golden and bubbly, and the top will get nice and crusty. Look at that go. And cue golden bubbles right now. Oh my God. And that's what it looks like when it's done. Beauty. Oh, remember that pizza dough we had too left over? Made a little focaccia out of that. Just drop some basil and oregano on there, some sea salt, jam your fingers in to give it that focaccia look, and throw it in the oven. Oh, and when we celebrate birthday month, you get a birthday cake with your friends. Look at that. So awesome. Thanks, Kai and Ross. We love you. Yay, happy birthday, girl. And that's what the finished product looks like. Fresh focaccia bread and a little lasagna dinner. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that edition of Cooking at Home with Bri Kate. And now, Kai and Ross are here. We're continuing birthday month. You saw the cake, you saw the lasagna, you saw the focaccia. Let's get it, let's get it. Oh, is your BFF here now? Is your BFF here now?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Somebody's happy.
Ross, I heard you.
All right, I'm hitting this up, guys. Oh my God. So good. Caitlin killed that pasta. That changes the game. We're gonna do fresh pasta all the time now. Why haven't we done that before? So good. Sauce. I wish you guys could have some of this. Thank you for joining us. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday month to you.
Happy birthday month.
Happy birthday month.
Yay!